Hello, this is the second episode of the Q&A competition. Today I'm going to announce the second of the two winners and answer the rest of your questions. So the first one today is from Dylan, who is 16 and from the UK, and he says, "My question is, as you have been playing since you were 3, do you ever feel as if you don't understand the piano? Does it always feel like you have complete understanding and control?" I had to think about this quite hard, Dylan, because it's so much part of me now, after all these years, that it's like deeper than understanding somehow. It's like it's a part of me, or a really old friend. It's kind of more like an instinct, you know, I know what the piano is capable of and what sound I'm trying to create. However, at the same time, I don't ever feel like I have complete understanding and control. No. Because when you add in the music and the composer's intentions and wishes, and then the art of performing, it kind of gets a lot more complicated. And I do sometimes have flashes of inspiration where I feel like I totally understand what the composer is trying to say. Or it's almost like the composer understands me. Somehow there's this synergy of emotional intention. And I mean, that feeling of discovery is kind of what sustains me through all the years of practice, because it is the best feeling. So that sometimes does happen, but often it takes many, many performances of a piece to feel like I'm even getting close to understanding the complexity of that music or how the layers all fit together. And then when it comes to feeling in control, I pretty much never feel like I'm in complete control, because I'm always searching for more subtlety, like, you know, more depth of subtlety and I guess more depth of mastery. And then at the same time, in performance, you're always trying to leave control behind, in a sense. It's, you know, when you get to the performance, you have to be not thinking about the notes and playing it correctly. You have to be almost abandoned to the music and the spontaneity of performance. So actually getting that balance between control and freedom is kind of a lifelong process. It's never static. And I feel like every concert, it's kind of an experiment. I had quite a few questions about how I organise my practice, especially not getting bored in practice. So, for example, Kevin asked, what is your method or attack for practicing the piano? And also Mark said, when I sit at the piano, I usually play some scales and pieces. After I've exhausted all the pieces I know, I get bored. How do you overcome boredom and fatigue when you are playing piano? And then also Sophie, who is 12 and studying for her grade 8 exam, she said, I love playing fast pieces. My question is, how do you make slow practice fun and enjoyable, and how do you manage to concentrate with this for a long period of time? So I'm going to try and answer all these questions. In terms of method or strategy, I try and have a balance between inspiration and discipline. So this is something that writers talk about sometimes, I think, in that you have to allow inspiration to happen, but you can't rely on it. So what I mean by that is I try to allow myself the space to practice what I feel like each day, you know, to go with my mood. Sometimes I'll really feel like practicing Mozart, sometimes I want to practice Scriabin, and I try to go with the flow in terms of that. And also, if I'm feeling particularly creative, then I will allow myself to just play and experiment and explore the music without trying to sort of specifically achieve anything. So that's a lot more free. But then there are days when I really don't feel like practicing at all, and I still have to organise myself so that I can achieve something on those days, because okay, sometimes I'll just not practice, but usually I still need to practice, even if I don't feel like it. So on those days, I tend to take quite an organised approach and use basically a checklist. It says, this is movement 1, it says semiquavers and rhythms, legato and staccato, bar 8, chord jumps, bar 28, figure out the shape, bar 30, practice by beat. So, it's like little small jobs. I find that being quite specific about the jobs is much more manageable somehow. I think if you set a massive aim like perfect this piece or memorize the whole piece, then you get demotivated quite quickly because it takes so long. That's my general method of attack is to be specific about what I'm trying to achieve. The other thing is that I have to be quite organised with my overall practice, so like to really keep track of what I have to work on each week, because of course I have different repertoire that needs to be ready at different times. So I always have a kind of running schedule where I mark in when I need the repertoire to be ready by for concert, and then before that, so I work backwards, so when I need it to be kind of at performance standard, and I'll schedule in a sort of run through or maybe record myself or something. I would usually do that a few weeks before the concert, and that gives me some time to kind of work on any last fine tuning. And then I before that would schedule in when I want to be able to play it from memory, and minimum a month before the concert. That would be like last minute. And then in terms of slow practice, Sophie, I actually love slow practice. I think I might do a separate video on this because I think it's really valuable. The key with slow practice is that I'm not just playing slowly. I'm actively focusing on things that I don't have time for when I play up to speed. Firstly, the pleasure of playing, like actually the physicality of the keys and the connection from my body through this finger connection. When that works, it is the most amazing feeling. I could chase that feeling all day and all night. So that's the first thing that I'm thinking about. And then also paying attention to the harmony. I think when the music's going by quite fast, you almost don't have a chance to really appreciate how the harmonies relate to one another. It's much easier to do that at a slow speed, and then you still can maintain that awareness when you speed the music up. Okay, next question is from Samyak, who is almost 16 and lives in Nairobi. Samyak says, I'm working on Mozart. I did some research into Mozart's life. His inspiration was his wife, an opera singer. How should I incorporate some of these ideas when I play this piece? Also, with Scherzo Humoristique by Copeland, how can I make it sound as fun as watching Tom catch Jerry? I like this question too. So I think it's fantastic, Samyak, that you're doing this research because it's a stage that lots of people miss out. To actually learn about the composer and what was happening in their life and what they may have been trying to convey, what they were interested in. I think in terms of the operatic elements of Mozart, I would say two things. I'm sure there's more things, but let's focus on two. Firstly, the singing line. Mozart has this incredible melodic genius. You have to carry us from the first note through to the last note of the phrase using your focus and your direction. So I think this is something where it is very helpful to think about an opera singer because they would have to be projecting to the back of a huge theatre. So when you play the melodies in Mozart, you can try to achieve that same effect of a kind of beam of light through the melody, that focus of an opera singer. Secondly, I think the elements of drama in Mozart. People often think about Mozart as being kind of nice and pretty, but it's actually full of so much contrast and drama and sadness sometimes as well. And I think you can watch some of his operas to get a feel for the style and the drama of them. Look through your music to find places where you can really make the most of the contrast. So this could be in dynamic contrast, it could be in change of mood. I think you need to imagine that you are portraying all these characters, make the audience feel the suspense, of what's going to happen. So using time, using contrast, you can get this dramatic effect. The same applies to the Copland, actually. So the sense of fun that you were talking about comes from that suspense, not knowing exactly what's going to happen next. And that's why cartoons are funny, because they're always trying to subvert our expectations. So I think using extreme dynamics and surprising sound qualities, make us wait, make us wonder what you're going to do next, and then suddenly surprise us. That's where you can get that sense of fun. The next and final question is from Christian, who is 17. And Christian says, what is the biggest lesson you have learned about coming into the world being a musician? And how did you go about learning it? This question really made me think a lot. I've actually been thinking about it for the whole week. And for this reason, I am going to say that Christian is the second winner, because it was very interesting for me actually to try and figure out what is the biggest lesson I've learned. And I think I'm going to go with, if you want to have a long-term career as a serious musician, then you need to play the long game. Let me try and explain what I mean by that. I think when I was younger, I was more concerned with appearing like a finished product. I think I know more and more every year that I'm never going to be a finished product. I'm never going to reach a point where I feel like, oh yes, I'm really good now, I'm where I want to be. I think that never happens. And that's as it should be. I think I'm kind of okay with that now, or becoming okay with it. Sometimes it feels very frustrating, but I think that's what keeps you pushing and challenging yourself. And, I would like to be performing for 50 more years. So how much more is there to learn? I'm only just really scratching the surface at the moment. I don't feel too proud to learn. I think I will take any opportunity to play to people and to get new feedback, get new ideas, sometimes challenging ideas, to make me, question how I'm thinking and how I'm playing. And I think maybe when I was younger, I found that more difficult because it felt like a criticism of me and my achievements. But now I relish that. I think when I say play the long game, I kind of mean don't get distracted or sent off course by chasing a short-term success. I think that's it. Because obviously there are ways that you can achieve great success at a young age, especially with social media. There's people around all over the world that you can see who are incredibly successful and famous, and it can be hard to compare to those people. But in my personal view, if it's not backed up by a serious and deep musicianship, then it probably won't last. And also, it's not going to be very fulfilling musically. It's a distraction from the real work of learning about music and understanding the piano and the music that you're playing. I think it's quite hard to get this balance actually, because of course we also have to remember that music is a business and we have to sell tickets. In order to, make a living, you have to actually be able to sell tickets, you have to promote yourself. I talked in the other Q&A video about searching for opportunities and making those opportunities for yourself. And I think to get that balance is really difficult, and that's actually something that I'm still learning. I don't feel like I always get it right. Sometimes I'm too focused on just practicing and not focused enough on actually organising the concerts. And sometimes vice versa. But I think generally my approach and what I try to remind myself is think of the next 50 years and what you want to achieve, what you want to be doing for those 50 years. And that's what I mean by play the long game and really to focus on the music. So Christian, thank you for that question, and you can also contact me through my website to set up a time for your lesson, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you. I found this very fascinating, this whole Q&A situation, and I was really sorry that I couldn't make everyone winners because I loved all your questions. So I am thinking that maybe in the future I'm going to do some more things like this, because I would really love to hear lots of you play. I will see you all soon, and thank you all so much for your questions. Bye.